Hi everyone, welcome to the Tiny Studio. My name is Nail and this is Simply Nail's Tiny Studio. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. What's going on in the Tiny Studio today? Well, I am crocheting. So this is a crochet or a let's crochet and chat kind of video. I am working on, or this is a continuation of the Granny Square Afghan that I've been working on. You know, I've been working on a lot of them, but you may recall this one, and I have added maybe 5 more rows since the last time you saw this. And these are going to be, well, this is going to be a lap blanket, and I am making several of them. And when I say lap blanket, I'm thinking of something that is, where's my measuring tape at? I'm thinking of, well, before I say it, let me just get my measuring tape so I can be accurate on how long and how wide I want this to end up being. Okay, so right now this blanket is about 19 inches wide, about 20 inches wide, and it is, should be about that much in length. Yes, and it's about 20 inches in length. So eventually I would like it to be, let's see, double that, about 40 inches. I like it to be 40 inches wide and more than likely 40 inches in length. So I have a ways to go, but you know, it'll be done. I want it to be ready to put on my Instagram website by, let's say, the fall, maybe around October or so, but we'll see how it goes. But that's my plan. I have several blankets right now that I'm working on, so I'm hoping that by the fall these Granny Square lap blankets will be ready and up for sale on Instagram or at my website, Blue Lotus Hill Design. So if you're interested, email me or direct message me on Instagram at Blue Lotus Hill Designs, or you can send me an email at bluelotushilldesigns@outlook.com. So that's what we're going to be working on, what I'm going to be working on today. This is going to call for a size 5mm hook, and if you are returning to the Tiny Studio, you know that this is my baby right here. This clover hook, oh my goodness, she just glides through my projects and I have no or zero complaints about her whatsoever. So I'm going to drop my yarn into my yarn bucket, and you know my trusty yarn bucket, if you are a returnee, you know it's my Wonder Woman bucket. Yes, Wonder Woman 84. If you're new to the Tiny Studio, then you probably don't know, but this is a popcorn bucket. When Wonder Woman 84 arrived in theaters course, you know, I was there and I had to get my popcorn on, of course, and I had to get the merchandise. So I have two of them. Believe it or not, I have two. So I have one that's up on display in my tiny studio. You can't see it right now, but it's on display. And I decided that I was going to use this one as a yarn bowl. So, you know, this is the tiny studio, and it's really all about storage, and it's about making things work. And why not? That's what I say. Why not? Make it work for you. Let it work for you. So that's what I'm working on today. What are you working on? I'm going to grab my hyssop tea and put it over here. And why don't you go and grab what you're working on, and we can meet back up here in 30 seconds? Okay. Okay, so by the time you see this video, it may be a little bit after Juneteenth, but this video is being recorded right now. I'm filming right now on June the 20th, which is the national holiday or celebration of Juneteenth. Some of you may not know what Juneteenth is or what it represents or why, and I'm going to be petty and say Google is your best friend. Because at this point, if you live in the U.S., you should already know what Juneteenth is and what it signifies. However, if you don't live in the U.S. and you don't have a working knowledge on what Juneteenth is, okay, let me just break it down like this. President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation declaring all slaves to be free in 1863. But because, okay, and I'm getting ready to go there, but because the white supremacists decided to go to war, and over the fact that they wanted to retain the right to hold human beings as slaves. They wanted to be able to have that right to do so or not, but they didn't want to be forced into a situation as to, they did not want to be forced to give up their slaves. So this caused a war, a civil war. And after the Civil War was fought, and it was one where the Union side or the United States government won that war against the white supremacists of the time, of that moment, which were predominantly in the southern half of the United States. After they won the war, after the United States of America won this particular, won the Civil War, there were still other places where they didn't get the message, where the slaves had not received that they were freed. So that's what Juneteenth is all about. The story goes that in a town in Texas, they received word that slaves received word that they were free and able to do as they please and not have to work their fingers to the bone for massa without a coin. They celebrated, and it happened on Juneteenth or June 19th, 1865. But know this, there were still areas of the South that did not receive word that the Emancipation Proclamation had declared all slaves free. A lot of slaves did not receive that word until late December 1865 into the first few months of 1866. There's a little history footnote for you. Yes, I think that, in my opinion, I think the white folks knew that knew about the proclamation, Emancipation Proclamation, but decided that they were going to keep that little bit of knowledge from their slaves, and they were going to continue to get as much work out of these Negroes as they possibly could. That's just my opinion. That's just my thoughts on that. But anyhow, when you're seeing, by the time you see this video, it will be June 20th, the official celebration of Juneteenth. And how do I feel about it? Well, I already knew what Juneteenth is. I already knew about the celebration, and I knew the significance of Juneteenth. And I just feel that even though, there's now a national recognition of Juneteenth, the significance of it, I just feel like it's just a band-aid on a gaping wound. I mean, yes, it's a federal holiday, and yes, people are becoming more aware of Juneteenth, but I just don't feel that. I don't feel that the people asked for Juneteenth to be a holiday. Not like we asked for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday to be a holiday. Yeah, now see, Black America asked for that. We didn't ask for Juneteenth to become a holiday. I'm just saying. And being that African Americans really don't have any holidays in this country besides Dr. King's birthday and Juneteenth, it's just the fact that no one asked for it, and the timing kind of sucks. I mean, a lot of companies, corporations and things, they decided to jump on this "we're not racist" or we're going to get it together type of bandwagon. And right after George Floyd was murdered, and when that video of George Floyd being murdered hit the world, then all type of corporations or companies and Fortune 500 spots, they all started saying, "Whoa, wow, this is terrible. We didn't know this type of racism was going on." And Colin Kaepernick, and I throw Colin Kaepernick's name in there because they knew. 2 words, Colin Kaepernick. So anyhow, all of these companies and corporations start saying, "Oh, we're going to do something. We must do something." For instance, the people who make Aunt Jemima pancake mix, all of a sudden they broke out and say, "Oh, guess what? That shit is racist. We're gonna get rid. We're gonna change the name of this pancake mix from Aunt Jemima to whatever they call it, the Pearl Meal Company or whatever they're calling it now." But that's what they did. All of a sudden, something's wrong with Aunt Jemima. We're gonna get rid of Uncle Ben. No more Uncle Ben's rice. We're gonna start calling it something else. What? Is that what Black America wanted? No. I was buying we've always bought Aunt Jemima pancake mix. That's not what we wanted. I purchased Uncle Ben's rice before, many times. I didn't, that didn't bother me. Even when she had a bandana, when Aunt Jemima had a bandana and some hoop earrings on, that really didn't bother me. That did not bother me. But all of a sudden, after George Floyd dies, and then there's this, it's murder, and then there's this worldwide protest, all of a sudden, these companies start saying, oh, we need to do something about our racist ways. Then, what else happened? Oh, you have sister over at, well, she's not sister, but you have, what's her name over at Vogue magazine. She comes out with a statement saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to do better. I cannot think of her name right now, but it'll come to me. I see her face. Anna Wintour. I'm going to do better. We're going to do better here at Vogue magazine. You know what? We're going to start having more black editors and more black photographers and more black stylists and more black everything. We're going to do all of that in Vogue, and it's my fault, but we're going to take care of it. I'm going to make sure that we become more inclusive. That was 2020. I guarantee you right now, I guarantee you that woman probably has only hired maybe about 2 to 5 extra black people since her statement. Because from what I understand and from what I have heard, Vogue is still struggling with being inclusive, struggling with black representation. Still. So that was just a preemptive strike on her part and a preemptive strike on all those corporations' parts, Oh, we're going to get rid of Aunt Jemima. Oh, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. This is what? 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 You knew that the whole Aunt Jemima thing was racist, years and years and years and years ago. But all of a sudden, George Floyd gets murdered on video, and you watch it and you say, oh, I guess I better do something before I get canceled. Nobody was even thinking about pancakes. Who was thinking about pancakes? Nobody. Nobody. As Keith Sweat would say. Nobody. Nobody was thinking about pancakes. Nobody was thinking about rice. But see, that's because white people already know. Let's be honest. White people already know that certain things is wrong and it's racist, but they ignore it. They feel as long as they're getting the money, which is what this is really about in the first place, as long as they're getting the money, everything is fine. As long as we keep getting paid, that's fine. So when all that stuff happened with George Floyd, you had all these companies coming out, we're going to do better. We're going to be diverse, and we're going to be inclusive, and we're going to be doing this and that and the other. You have all these companies. That was just a preemptive strike because they didn't want to get canceled. They did not want to get canceled, but nobody was really thinking about them. Everyone, Black America, we were really thinking about this George Floyd stuff. We were really thinking about the significance of it. We're really thinking about all the people who has been brutalized and murdered, tortured for being black in this country. That's what Black America was thinking about. We weren't even thinking about pancakes and rice and magazines. We weren't thinking about that. But I'm trying to tell you, that's America. It comes down to what? It comes down to the money all the time. That's why the South fought, in the Civil War in the first place, because it was about money. It was about economics. Black people was, helped to keep the economy running. Black people was out there chopping on that sugar cane. Black people was out there picking that cotton. Black people was out there making that flour. You know? Planting that wheat. Planting that rice. Black people was doing that. So if you're telling us that we got to get rid of our slaves, then that means I'm going to have to hire people. And if I have to hire people, they're not going to, they're going to have situations where they're not going to be able to come to work sometimes because they're going to be sick, or they're going to have to, they may have family obligations and they might not be able to go to work. First of all, I'm going to have to pay these people. Did we already say that? I'm going to have to find me some employees. I'm going to have to pay them. I'm going to have to, No, we want to keep our slaves. We want to keep our free labor. And not only do these slaves work, they reproduce. So I could get me a really good slave, a 13-year-old girl, black girl, and I could get her, and if I could get her knocked up real good, I could get her knocked up about 10 times. That's more slaves. It's kind of, it's warped thinking, but it's thinking that, made a whole system turn. And let's not sit back and say that the North didn't benefit from slaves and slave labor, because they did. I mean, the rice wasn't just sitting here in the South. The rice wasn't just going overseas. The rice was going up north too. Sugar was going up north into the Midwest as well. What else? Flour was going up to the Midwest and to the north. Cotton, that was being sold up north as well. So the whole country benefited from slave labor. The entire country. So and guess what? Black people still have not been paid for their labor. Black people still have not been paid in perpetuity for the work that they put in to help get this country going. Still. So we're still getting a raw deal. Still getting played by the system. And that's what black people want. Black people want reparations and still want equal pay and fair and equal housing. We want to be able to start businesses, create generational wealth. That's what the descendants of slaves want. That's what we want. We didn't ask you for a holiday. A holiday where I don't think anybody's getting paid. I mean, you tell me, you let me know, can you have the day off on Juneteenth? Is Juneteenth one of those days where you get to get paid and stay home if you so choose? I don't think so. So what's the point of having a federal holiday if you can't reap the benefits of it? That's what I ask myself. But you know what? I don't really think Black America came together and said this is what we wanted. But politicians got together and decided this is what we were going to get. And that's why I have a serious issue with Juneteenth as a federal holiday. Because, now it's commercialized. How about that thing with Walmart having Juneteenth ice cream? or all these other stores. You see it on television. Your Juneteenth furniture sale. Come on in. Come on in for our Juneteenth blowout. You could get this 6-piece sectional for $2,000. Put a little down now and pay 5 years later. Come on in to the Toyota dealership for our Juneteenth special. You can drive out of here with a brand new Toyota Corolla. Just put a little bit of money down and pay later. But this is only going to be good for Juneteenth. Come on in here. You know, and that is what everyone feared. When Juneteenth became a holiday, or became, you know, a federal holiday, that's what a lot of people fear. A lot of people in Black America feared that it was going to become commercialized. They were going to turn it into a 4th of July type of thing. Because you know the 4th is coming up in another, 2 weeks or so? Less than 2 weeks, the 4th of July will be here. And of course, we already know the 4th of July has been, you know, commercialized forever. So it seemed that people wanted to, you know, corporate America wanted to commercialize Juneteenth. And, you know, we're not here for it. I don't think anyone in Black America is here for that. For you to commercialize Juneteenth. Come on in and get this really great special on beds we had today. You could get yourself an adjustable bed only on Juneteenth. Celebrate the Juneteenth holidays with us. Come on in to Mattress Warehouse. Just ridiculous. I know I'm ridiculous, you know, but I'm just saying, you know, you're taking something that's sacred and you commercialize it. And that's why I say that nobody asks for Juneteenth to become a federal holiday. Nobody. Because this is what happens. This shit ain't funny. Juneteenth ain't funny. Juneteenth is a time for us to reflect. Reflect on where we've been. Honor our ancestors. Think about and plan for the future. Celebrate the fact that we survived. This ain't no July 4th. That had nothing to do with that. This is about our lives as Black people. That's what Juneteenth is about. It's about surviving a Holocaust. That's what Juneteenth is really all about. We survived a Holocaust. And guess what? Little did we know we was entering a whole nother hell. A whole nother hell was about to befall Black people as they moved from Juneteenth into Reconstruction. And Reconstruction will only last, I want to say, 10 years. 10 years, and then white supremacists will come in and destroy all of that, and then place Black people back into a slavery-like condition. So when we think of Juneteenth, that's what we all should be thinking about as Black Americans. That's what this country needs to be thinking about. But since you have a situation where the truth about American history is not going to be taught in our schools anymore. We don't want no CRT. Now that that is going on, the only way that kids will know and understand what Juneteenth really signifies is that parents and interested adults are going to have to teach it to the children. Teach what real American history is about. And see, here's the thing about American history. No one is saying that all American history is bad American history. No one is saying that. But what we are saying is that you need to teach the truth and not bring in fluff and fairy tales. That's the thing. And that is what a lot of your politicians today are screaming about, that they don't want. They want people to have they want kids to grow up having that same naive outlook on what America really stands for, or what America is really about. You know, I was reading something yesterday, and I think it was an article in the New York Post. It was something. It was about that Native American sister who was at the Oscars in 1972, I think, and she was accepting the Best Actor award for Marlon Brando, and he sent her there with a note saying that, hey, you know, I'm not accepting this award because of the way the Hollywood film industry portrays Native Americans. And you know, she was getting into it, and this narrative about the Native American sister, it came up during the discussion we were all having about Will Smith smacking Chris Rock at the Oscars this year. And so people were reminded of the way actor John Wayne behaved when this Native American sister was accepting or decided or did not accept the award for Marlon Brando. And this was all, you know, Marlon Brando and she were friends, and he asked her that, you know, that night that if he was to win, that she would go on the stage and she would read this speech, and she would say that Marlon Brando was not accepting the Oscar for Best Actor, and here's the reason why. So in the letter that John Wayne wrote, you know, he was saying some things, you know, and he was saying that the way Native Americans have been portrayed in the film industry is shameful. And so the young sister, well, she's not a young sister anymore. The woman who was the Native American sister, and the thing is, I can't think of the name of the article, and I can't think of where I read it, but she was interviewed. I think she's in her 70s now, and she was interviewed about that Oscar moment, because we're coming up on 50 years since it happened. And that's what the article was about, the fact that it's been 50 years since that particular Oscar event. And the thing is, Marlon Brando, what he said was absolutely true. Absolutely true. And the fact that John Wayne was pissed about it was interesting, of course, because he became a star off of, you know, being this hero cowboy going around killing up Indians. And we all know that that cowboys and Indian story, we all know that was, you know, a lie. especially the way Native Americans were portrayed in Hollywood and in history books as savages. As savages is going around raping and killing women and white women and children and scalping white men. I mean, how many TV shows were spun or born from that premise? I mean, the 50s and the 60s, you had all kinds of cowboy shows, all kinds of westerns where Native Americans are getting killed up for real. Okay? Or discriminated against for real, treated like dirt and crap. There's this movie called Giant. Have you seen it? It has Rock Hudson in it, Elizabeth Taylor, and I cannot believe I'd have forgot that man's name. And I can see him right now. It'll come to me. Jimmy Dean. Have you seen that movie, Giant? And in that movie, that's another Western. And in that movie, Native Americans and Mexicans are treated like crap. Treated like absolute crap. But that is the story that Hollywood wanted to tell. That's the story that Hollywood wanted to tell about Native Americans. And it's a false narrative. It's a false story. It's a false story. But how many history books from back in the day, back in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, how many of those history books taught the real history of Native Americans in this country or indigenous peoples in this country? How many? There are some history books right now that will spend maybe 2 paragraphs on American slavery here. Just 2 paragraphs. There has been some issues with the way the history of American slavery is taught or referred to. To gloss over the horror and the torture of African American slaves. And trust me, I have heard and been privy to conversations where white people have said, well, you know, not all white people in the South were slaves. Not every white person had slaves. Not all slaves were tortured. Not all slave owners were mean and unkind to their slaves. And every time I hear some mess like that, you know what I say? I just keep it real. First of all, you're holding a human being hostage. It doesn't matter how nice you may treat your hostage or your slave. It doesn't matter that you treated your slaves all kind and gave them food and clothing. That doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, the real deal is that you are holding human beings in bondage. You're holding them hostage for your benefit. That's the real deal, right? Right. So all that other stuff you claim, there's a lot of nice white folks out here. Everybody white is not prejudiced. Yeah, but are you doing something? Are you doing something to help other black people? Just like all of those so-called white people who were not slave owners, what were they doing? How many of them were helping to run the Underground Railroad? How many of them was helping to get Kizzy and John and Anna Mae? How many of them were helping these slaves escape? How many? How many of them today are helping in ways that will push African Americans forward? How many of them are working in organizations to help get African Americans reparations? How many of them are trying to get these politicians who are so-called, interested in their constituents, and over there in Mississippi and in some places in Alabama, people ain't got clean water. They're having their sewage. The sewage is so backed up that it's backing up not in the back of their house, but in the front of their house. Yeah, that's true. There's some places right now here in the South where they don't have running water, where they are still living in shacks, where they're still poor. They don't have any food, no jobs. And this is generational. So where are all those nice white people? Where y'all at? And that's why I say we didn't need a Juneteenth to be a holiday. Black America didn't ask for that. Black America has a specific list of things that we want and that we deserve. I mean, first of all, how about this? Let's offer all these colleges and universities out here, let's offer African Americans free tuition. We can start off there. Free tuition. Universities and colleges, they're not going to fail. They're not going to shut down. But I guarantee you that for those African Americans who want to invest in bettering themselves, want to become professionals out here so they can begin a system of generational wealth, I'm sure a college education, a free college education, is going to help them along those lines and get them on their way. So let's start there. Free education, free higher education for all African Americans who choose to attain one. Why not? We can start there. Let's start a movement on that. How about free health care for African Americans? Free health care for African Americans. How about that? Why not? And you always hear somebody in the background say, "Ooh, that can't be done." We can't do that. That's gonna break the economy. I don't think so. How many billions of dollars have we sent over to Ukraine within the last 90 days? Think about it. See, that's why I say black people didn't ask. Black America did not ask for Juneteenth to become a federal holiday, because that's just fluff. That's just superficial junk. We need action. We need action. Juneteenth as a holiday, that's not action. I mean, can all black people stay home on this holiday and get paid? On Juneteenth? On this day? Without being afraid that they're going to lose their jobs? Now, if you really want to do something, do that. Next year, Juneteenth, all African Americans get that day off and they get paid. What about that? What about that, white peoples? What about that? What you think about that? That's what I say. But I don't know. Some of y'all may watch this video and be like, that girl, why is she so racist? That's like reverse racism. That's what she's talking about, is reverse racism. Racism against me. And what have I've never done anything to hurt black people. I've never done anything to black people. I've always been kind to black people. So why am I being penalized for what other white people do? That's just not right. Well, like I said before, when the sugar was being planted and picked and processed, when the cotton was being planted and picked and processed, when wheat was being planted and picked and processed and turned into flour, guess what? All the white people who didn't have slaves was benefiting from slave labor. All the white people up north and in the Midwest, they was benefiting. They was putting sugar in their coffee or in their cocoa and in their little tea cakes. They was using sugar too. And where did that sugar come from? Right on down in the South. And down over there in Haiti and in Jamaica. And who was doing all the work? The slaves were. So yeah, you may say, oh, I was nice to all the people, the black people. Black people, I have some blacks. Some of my best friends is black. I didn't do nothing. But you're right. You didn't do anything, but you benefited from it. You're benefiting from slave labor today. So what you're saying is just hollow. It doesn't mean anything. Just like Joe Biden signing Juneteenth into a national federal holiday, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything if, there isn't some type of significance behind it, some type of movement behind it. What's the movement? I don't see any movement besides Walmart trying to offer or trying to sell Juneteenth ice cream. Where's the movement? I don't see any movement. I don't see any momentum. I don't see anything. What we want reparations. That's what we want. We want to honor our ancestors. All these cemeteries and graveyards down in the South that, white people and corporations drop houses on top of, and buildings and schools on top of, and freeways on. We want reparations for that too. That's what we want. We want money for our slave cemeteries. We want that. We want our slave cemeteries and our black cemeteries to be declared national monuments. That's what we want. We want money from parks and services so that we can fix up our slave cemeteries. That's what we want. We don't want no holiday. And how much money do you think it'll take to do all of that? Right? To do everything that's on Black America's list. How much money do you think it would take? We want our public schools to be up and operating at an optimum level. We want our teachers to be paid at a really good rate because they deserve it. We want equipment in our schools. Top of the line. We want technology in our schools. Top of the line. We want our neighborhoods, especially the neighborhoods in crises. We want them operating at a really great level. We don't want no more that nasty water situation that's going on in Flint that still hasn't been fixed. We want our black neighborhoods to be thriving. Everybody, whether they rich or poor in the black community or middle class or whatever, everybody should have access to clean water. Everybody should have access to electricity. Everybody should have access to gas. Everybody should have access to be able to a grocery store to pick up some food for their families and not have to rely on having a vehicle to get them to where they need to go. It should be some fresh food options in our neighborhoods. We want clinics and hospitals for our babies. We want training programs, adequate training programs for our kids, the ones that decided they don't want to go to obtain higher education. They may just want vocational training. We want free vocational training for our young people. We want access to loans. For those of us who want to start businesses, we want to have access to loans so that those who are coming out of these vocational schools with skills and trades, so that they can start their own business right there in our community. We want loans so we can start fruit markets, vegetable markets, grocery stores in our own community, ran by us, not somebody else. That's what we want. We want the roads fixed in our communities. We want the abandoned houses torn down or fixed up. We want the homeless off the streets. We want adequate soup kitchens for those who are homeless or find themselves unemployed so they can go in and get a good meal. That's what we want. And you gave us a holiday. We want police academies where these academies operate at the behest of the community and for the community. And we want to have some type of say in how policing looks in our community. That's what we want. We didn't want a Juneteenth holiday. That's what we wanted. But what we get a Band-Aid. Or as Charlie Brown said, I got a bag of rocks. I asked for candy and I got a bag of rocks. And that's what Black America got. We asked for candy and we got a bag of rocks. So forgive me if I'm not all gung-ho about this Juneteenth holiday. Forgive me. But you understand. I hope that by the end of this video, which is very soon, you will understand why I have this attitude about Juneteenth. Because it's just a Band-Aid. It's just a Band-Aid. It's not, as a matter of fact, it's not even a Band-Aid. It's a small cotton swab atop of a gaping, gushing wound. It benefits nothing and it benefits no one. And we can thank our black politicians for that one. Yep, talking to you guys. We can thank you for that. Because you know exactly what it is that Black America wants. But you gave us a holiday. Once again, here we are singing and dancing. It's Juneteenth. We singing and dancing. I was watching, so I'm going to let you go in a minute. I was watching the Juneteenth celebration on CNN last night that happened at the Hollywood Bowl. Oh, they had everybody there. They had everybody. You know, they had Earth, Wind, and Fire. Look, I'm not knocking Earth, Wind, and Fire because, you know, I love September. I love me some Earth, Wind, and Fire. I love the elements. They had Belle Biv DeVoe. Now you know. They had them on there showing out. Who else was on there? They had a lot of people, a lot of stars from a lot of black American, you know, performers. But here's the thing. They saved the gospel artists for the end of the show. I think that was Mary, Michelle Williams, and Anthony Hamilton. They had the gospel portion at the end of the show. I thought about that. I thought about the symbolism of that. Because the fact of the matter is, yeah, we were probably all celebrating. Our ancestors was probably all really celebrating the fact that they had been emancipated. Yes. But that celebration probably started with praising God, praising Jah. It probably climaxed with a praise break to Jah. And it concluded celebrating and praising Jah. And that is where I say we didn't need no Juneteenth celebration. We didn't need no holiday. Because as America does, we co-opted and it becomes something diluted and without purpose. So, I have completed my second row of this beautiful red that I'm including in this granny square. And what I need to do is I need to switch my stitch marker to the next side, so I'll know that when I return to this, I'll be starting out on the opposite side. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today here in the tiny studio. I hope you had a good time hanging out with me. I had a good time hanging out with you for this episode of Let's Crochet and Chat. Next time, hopefully we'll be talking about something lighter than what we were talking about today. But I want you to have a good day. And listen, if you haven't already liked this video, please go ahead and do so. If you are a returnee and you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe. And if this is your first time, if you enjoyed the content, go ahead and subscribe as well so that you'll be notified every time I upload content onto this channel or every time I pop into the tiny studio to crochet. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Have a wonderful day.